Hello everyone, welcome to Skholar IAS. In this new video, we'll be discussing about the current affairs for the date of 25th of November 2020. Let's proceed to our discussion. The first topic of our discussion today is the IRNSS, that is Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. This topic falls under the topic of technology under the GS3 subject. IRNSS, that is the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System. This is in news because India became the fourth country in the world to have its own independent regional navigation system recognized by the International Maritime Organization as part of the worldwide radio navigation system. Now, what is this IRNSS? IRNSS is a navigation system similar to what we have as the Global Positioning System, which is present in USA. This has been developed indigenously by Indian Space Research Organization, and it has been developed indigenously, that is without any foreign collaboration. The IRNSS provides accurate positional information within the borders of India and also 1500 kilometers from India's borders. It mainly provides two types of positioning services, that is standard positioning system, which is mainly for the civilian applications, and also the restricted positioning system, which is mainly for the military purposes used by the Indian Army and other related army forces. It is regional in the sense it provides the navigation services only till 1500 kilometers to the India borders, unlike the global positioning system of the USA, which has a worldwide coverage. And the IRNSS system comprises of mainly 7 satellites, namely IRNSS 1A to 1I. If you see the difference between A to I, these are 9 satellites, but these are only 7 satellites in number. That is because the 1A has been in failure because of the failure of the atomic clocks in the satellite system, and 1H also has been a failure because of the failure in the launch vehicle, that is Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, also called as the PSLV. The operational name given for the IRNSS is called NAVIC, or Navigation for Indian Constellation. Of these 7 satellites, 3 are in the geostationary orbit and 4 are in the geosynchronous orbit. Now, how does the recognition by the International Maritime Organization matter? The IMO, also called as the International Maritime Organization, is a specialized agency of the United Nations, and it is responsible for the safety and security of the shipping and also for the prevention of marine and atmospheric pollution that is caused due to ships. This includes both the commercial shipping as well as the naval shipping used by the navies of their respective countries. This recognition is part of the WWRNS, that is the Worldwide Radio Navigation System, which is a program of the International Maritime Organization. So far, this recognition has been given only to 4 countries, of which India is the 4th one. The other 3 are USA, Russia, and China. The navigation system of USA is called GPS, while that of Russia is called GLONASS, and that of China is called BIDO. This is important for prelims perspective. Unlike the GPS, we have already discussed that IRNSS is a regional and not a global navigation system. The IRNSS navigation system, also called as the NAVIC, can be utilized not only by the security agencies and the Department or the Directorate General of Shipping, but also by all the merchant vessels who are operating in the Indian Ocean region. The respective ships or the merchant shipping vessels need to have transponders installed in them, and they will be tracked by the satellite navigation, that is IRNSS 1A to 1I, which are located at a distance of 36,000 kilometers from the surface of the earth and provides accurate navigation position within the Indian Ocean region bracket. If GPS, BIDO and GLONASS are already present, then what is the need for India to develop its own navigation satellite system? The first one is that over-reliance on one navigation system like GPS cannot be safe. This has been already proved in the case of Kargil War. During Kargil War with Pakistan, India has been using GPS system of America for locating the position of the enemy in the Himalayas region. And since Pakistan was a pro-ally of USA at the time, the USA restricted the navigation system access to India, and this made India to rethink its sovereign and defense and security purposes, and hence developed its own navigation satellite system. It also helps in gaining geopolitical activities inside and near the borders of India. This IRNSS can be utilized by the neighboring countries such as Nepal, Bhutan, and other friendly countries of India and help them in their sovereign and defense purposes issues. It also can be used as a commercializing agent in the future once it has been expanded to other countries, and this could earn huge foreign exchange reserves to India and reduce the current account deficit also. The next topic of our discussion is the National Nutrition Mission. This topic falls under the paper GS2 and side heading as social justice. This topic is in news because the Niti Aayog, which is also the implementing body of the National Nutrition Mission, released its third progress report and suggested some important ways to improve the National Nutrition Mission. Now let us understand what exactly is the National Nutrition Mission. It is also called as the Poshan Abhiyan and is the world's largest national nutrition program for the children and mothers. This has been launched in the year 2018 for improving the nutritional outcomes among children, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. The targets that are achieved under this mission have to be achieved by the year 2022. Some of the main objectives of the National Nutrition Mission are convergence. This scheme is not an initiative of one ministry but a coordination between many other ministries, such as the Ministry of Women and Child Development, which is the main implementing ministry for the National Nutrition Mission, along with the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Jal Shakti and Sanitation. The guidelines manuals of the Poshan Mission are covered under the ICDS CAS software, and the implementation module and the procedures that are to be followed have been formalized and printed and distributed at the district level also. The special emphasis has been laid on the issue of behavioral change, and this component is implemented to educate and sensitize the people on nutritional aspects and sending folk songs and other instrumental behavioral messages on WASH scheme, and also sending messages on nutritional and creating or sensitizing yoga for children at the Anganwadi centers. Incentives have been provided to different states for best performers, and also a concept of innovation has been utilized where locally developed methods are given more weightage than the top-down approach which are prescribed from the central level. The training and capacity building of the Anganwadis will be done where the human resource deployed such as the Anganwadis or the ASHA workers will be constantly trained and their capacity will be enhanced through such programs. And also the last component is the grievance redressal. Through this National Nutrition Mission, the government aims to cover a total of 10 crore beneficiaries. Now let us look into the targets that have been set by the Government of India for this National Nutrition Mission. The mission aims to reduce the stunting and wasting. Stunting implies low height for age and wasting implies low weight for height. Please remember this definition, this can be confusing at times. And the government aims to reduce the stunting and wasting among the children of under 5 years of age at 2% per year by the year 2022. And also it aims to reduce the number of anemia cases among the children, adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating mothers by a percent of 3% every year. The issue of stunting and wasting and anemia is very much prevalent in India, and this has been found out by the National Family Health Survey 4, which said that 33% of the children under 5 are suffering with the problem of stunting and wasting, and nearly about 40% of the children who are aged between 1 and 4 years of age are anemic, that is, who have a deficiency of iron in their bodies. A central council called the National Nutrition Council has been set up under this mission to execute the program that were taken under the board. And the chairman of this National Nutrition Council is the deputy chairman or the vice chairman of the Niti Aayog. And Niti Aayog releases frequent reports analyzing the deficiencies and proposes measures to overcome the deficiencies every year. And this year, the third report has been released, and it said that in order to accelerate for the further developments under the Poshan Abhiyan, the Poshan Abhiyan has to be enhanced to a Poshan Plus strategy and cover other social determinants also. It also suggested the governance challenges that are prevalent in the National Health Mission and the Integrated Child Development Scheme to be revamped or to reorganize so that this program, which works in tandem with the ICDS, can give more better results. The report also recommended emphasis on the complementary feeding, as it also emphasizes on the breastfeeding. Through a survey in other countries, it was found that the complementary feeding given to a newborn child will reduce the stunting cases in India up to 60%. Some major issues that were pointed out by the critics in this report was that this report was prepared before the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the report was released recently only. Thus, the report did not consider the effect of the lockdowns and the worsening hunger and poverty levels which happened in the past 7 months. So, this does not give a complete picture of the current nutritional status in India. The next topic of our discussion is the negative bond yields. This comes under the chapter Economic Development under the GS3 paper. This topic is in news because there has been a spike in the demand for the negative bond yields debt market across the countries after China recently sold some of its debt. Now let us understand what exactly do you mean by the bond yields. Suppose the government of India issues a bond of 100 rupees and says that every year it pays an interest of 10%. That translates to 10 rupees. Bond yield is given by the formula the interest rate that is obtained on the bond divided by the price of the bond. In this case, it would be 10% because the interest obtained after 1 year is 10 and the price of the bond sold is 100. Hence, it translates to 10%. Suppose if you are in a need of money and you would like to sell this bond to someone who is ready to buy it. So the other person would not buy it for 100 rupees, rather he would buy it for 90 rupees and you're okay to suffer this loss of 10 rupees. And in this case, the bond yield becomes 10 divided by the bond price, that is 90. This translates to a bond yield of 11.11%. And also consider the alternate case as well. Suppose if there is huge demand for this government bond and a person is ready to pay even 105 rupees for that bond, but he would be getting only 10 rupees at the end of 1 year. In that case, the bond yield translates to 10 divided by 105. This translates to about 4.76%. Hence, there is a decrease in the bond yield. If you compare, if the bond prices increase, the bond yields decrease. And vice versa also is true. If the bond prices reduce, the bond yield increases. This is the main difference between a bond yield and a bond price. This is what has been given here. Negative bond yields are the debt instruments that offer to pay the investor a maturity amount lower than the purchase price of the bond. These are issued mostly by the central banks of the government, and the investors pay interest to the borrower to keep money with them. So if there are negative bond yields, then what is making the investors invest in negative bond yields? This they are doing because due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the equities market are at a loss. And also please remember that investors resort to buying negative yield bonds only during the time of stress and uncertainty, because the investors want to protect their capital from the significant erosion. And the bond yields are negative because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to this, the interest rates in most of the developed countries have become negative. That is, if you park your funds in the bank bank will be penalizing for parking your funds in the bank rather than paying interest on the amount that you have deposited in the bank. Hence, the investors are resorting to some positive kind of instruments where they can earn some interest. Hence, they are resorting to this negative bond yields, debt market. The 10 and 15-year bonds that are offered in the market offer a positive return than the 5-year bond that are offered, which have a negative bond yield. Now, let us analyze why is there an increase for the negative bond yields debt. The first one is the massive amount of liquidity injected by the global central banks. If you look into or follow the news after the COVID-19 pandemic, in order to tide out the economy from the recession, most of the central banks and the governments have announced fiscal measures to incentivize the credit offtake and improve the economy and push it into the normal track. Due to this, there is a large availability of liquidity in the market, and the investors are utilizing this liquidity in buying equities, debts and commodities in the respective markets. And also the investors are looking to participate in the negative bond yield debt, and they are using it as a hedge against the volatilities in the equity market. As you understand that equity market functions mainly on the basis of sentiments. Therefore, if the sentiment of the market is low, the Sensex or the Nifty by the BSE as well as the NSE will be on a decline, and the shareholders or the investors who have bought that shares will be at a loss. Therefore, to hedge against the equity market which is going through volatility, investors are looking to buy into the negative bond yields market. And also due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it also led to the Western economies which have huge liquidity in their bourses to further buy these bonds, and this led to the demand increase for the negative bonds. The other reason is the risk of the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has started in countries like Europe and America. While Europe and America have been affected with the second wave of COVID, the China was able to control the pandemic, and hence China has enough liquidity and the market to buy these bonds, which in turn increase the demand for these bonds, and hence people or the investors are ready to take the risk and hedge against their volatility in the equities market. And the last reason was that since China is already being noted as a stable economy, because the other countries are still reeling with the effect of the COVID pandemic, the investors are ready to take up exposure in this Chinese bond market, and hence all these reasons combined led to the demand increase for these bonds. This comes to the end of our discussion of the main 3 articles for this today's current affairs. Subscribe to our channel to get regular updates about the UPSC preparation and the related videos. Thank you.